It should be clear to all members of this House that asking the public to hold elections for an organisation we are meant to have left would damage trust in politics. However, there is no guarantee the UK would not participate in European parliamentary elections if the House refuses to support a deal.
Let's go to London now and speak to our correspondent Benedicte Paviot. Benedicte, what does yesterday's vote in the Commons really mean for the Brexit process?
Well, in one word, trying to get an extension, instructing the Prime Minister to get an extension to what is currently in English law now the 12th of April deadline of the United Kingdom leaving by default without a deal, and what some are calling crashing out. So to show how divided the country is, how divided Parliament is, how divided the lower chamber of the House of Commons is, yes, it was by a majority of just one vote, actually, that this bill was passed, and it was in an accelerated form. What should have taken normally 2 to 3 weeks was done in a day. It is now before the House of Lords, the upper chamber, that has begun whether to debate this bill or not. We think it will be carried. It needs to be if it is to become law, and if that instruction of Parliament are to make the Prime Minister Theresa May go to the European Union and ask for an extension. Now, there is no specification on how long that extension would be. And of course, it will be in the gift not of the Prime Minister, not of Parliament, ultimately in the gift of the 27 other EU leaders to grant or not that extension, to reject it, and of course the length of any extension and any other conditions that the EU would choose and seek to meet. And certainly that emergency council summit on the 10th of April is concentrating minds here. And of course, the UK watching the EU very closely, but the EU monitoring very closely what's happening in the British Parliament.
Meanwhile, Benedicte, Labour and Conservative teams talking today to try and break the deadlock, and neither camp, it seems, is particularly happy. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism on both sides.
Indeed, already huge anger last night at that majority of one vote. Some Brexiteers saying that this was simply not constitutional to rush this through the House of Commons, and certainly anger, yes, at this what is very significant, some would say late move of the Prime Minister 48 hours ago to reach out in an official capacity to the Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, the leader obviously of the main opposition, to try and find common ground, to try and come up with a plan. Now, it's important to say that that may not happen, and certainly there are teams that have been set up both by the government, the Conservative Party and the Labour Party that had started meeting last night. It's no longer a face-to-face meeting between Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn. It's their respective teams. That is continuing today. If and when there is no plan, common plan, no agreement and no compromise between, in those talks, then what the Prime Minister has made clear is that she would then come back to Parliament with options, other options, alternatives that would be indicative votes as soon as Monday, and that there she would be legally bound, and the government would be bound by whatever options the Parliament would find a majority for. Of course, there's no guarantee that there will be a majority for anything, and this has been one of the ongoing problems. But huge anger, frustration, not just amongst Brexiteers, and certainly rumours again today in the British media, in the British papers, amongst whom the tabloid The Sun, saying that 15 more ministers are standing by to resign and to express their unhappiness at the Prime Minister reaching out to the Labour Party like this. And 5 of those could be actually from the cabinet itself. So both a parliamentary process that continues, a political process that continues.
All right, thank you very much for that update from London. Benedicte Paviot reporting.